Yeah. Uh, so in this stream, wanted to talk about maybe a somewhat interesting topic. Not exactly sure how interesting uh, it would be to a wider audience, but I still found it an interesting idea at the very least, which is that there may be some relationship between, at least I'm positing that there may be some relationship developmentally between cell circumference and brain mass or brain size. So if we imagine where into the future, right, humans have, right, so of course this wouldn't be possible because, uh, but it's at least a theoretical possibility. I mean, let's say that evolutionarily, um, let's say that it's both evolutionarily necessary that humans develop larger heads and that the development of larger heads would not result in fatal childbirth for mothers. Because, I mean, that's the thing, right? We have this spontaneous and significant increase in, the size of the head, even for infants, right? Of course, it may be possible that, you know, uh, head size in infancy at birth remains the same, but ultimately heads end up becoming much larger later in life. Uh, Regardless, most likely it is a sound conclusion that an increase in the size of the head is going to, and if it's spontaneous and significant, could result, right, would result necessarily in much more painful childbirth at the very least, but most likely fatal childbirth or very injurious childbirth. So we have to bear in mind that there is this balance there. Uh, and so, evolutionarily speaking, the I guess what you would call the birth canal, the circumference of the birth canal is a constraint on the development of larger cranial circumference or larger heads, to be more simple. And uh, so there's that constraint on the development of larger heads for humans. Um, Additionally, the point has to be made that our heads are already pretty significantly large. So uh, there is no real evolutionary necessity for larger head size for humans. And ultimately, our the musculature in our neck really wouldn't be able to support the extra weight. Um, regardless, uh, regardless, and then so yeah, there's the size of the birth canal constraint on the development of larger heads, and yeah, that's the main constraint that I can consider or that comes to mind now. Now, what might be the relationship between skull or cranial circumference and brain size and how it develops? I mean, you could imagine it. The development and the size of the brain is limited by many factors, but one such factor may be just the size of the skull, right? So the size of the brain, the ultimate size of the brain in terms of its development is limited by the size of the skull. The skull is that fundamental physical constraint to the expansion and the size of the brain as it develops. And it's conceivable that if humans had greater cranial circumference and larger heads, then we'd have larger brains because our brains would have more space to develop into, physically speaking. We wouldn't have that physical constraint. So that's just an idea. I'm not exactly sure if the thinking of developmental neuroscientists supports me. Let's see. Sorry. So according to an article in ScienceNet links, let's see. On big heads, the articles on big heads states that it's very likely that a bigger head means a bigger brain. So according to what though? So I think there is some thinking that matches onto mine or is in a similar vein. So yeah, that there may be some relationship between between skull circumference and head size and brain size and overall brain mass, such that if humans had larger heads, a larger cranial circumference, larger skull circumference, we would have larger brains, which may have implications in terms of genetic engineering and may have implications. Brain size may be related to intelligence. And so from a genetic engineering perspective, crafting, designer humans, in a sense, may be beneficial to alter genes controlling for cranial circumference and then increase that circumference thereby, hence increasing brain size and increasing intelligence. So it's pretty cool from an engineering perspective. Thanks for watching.